Have you ever looked around and realized, quietly, almost painfully, that some people have stopped calling, that visits aren't as frequent, that maybe, just maybe, you're no longer part of the rhythm of someone else's life? If you're in your 80s or heading there, you might know exactly what I'm talking about. It doesn't always come with drama or big arguments. Sometimes it's just the slow fading of connection. I'm talking to you, my modern and unstoppable seniors. This video from Wellness for Modern Seniors is for anyone who's ever felt a little more alone than they used to. We're going to break down 8 powerful signs that people may start pulling away after 80, even if they don't mean to. And more importantly, we'll talk about how to recognize these signs early and what you can do about them. Stick with me until the end, because sometimes just having words for what you've felt brings real healing. Let's start with sign number 1. Before we dive in, comment your first name below and add a heart emoji. It's a small act, but it blesses your high wellness journey and reminds you that you belong here, with all of us at Wellness for Modern Seniors. Sign number 1. Conversations become shorter and feel more formal than personal. Once upon a time, when the phone rang, it was someone calling just to laugh, to share stories, to hear what you thought. But now, maybe it rings less. And when it does, the voices on the other end sound polite, courteous even, but not quite warm, not quite deep. You might notice the conversation ends quickly or never really starts in the first place. They ask if you've eaten, if you've taken your pills, if everything is okay. On the surface, it sounds caring, but deep down, it feels transactional. They're no longer leaning in to hear your stories or memories. They're just checking boxes. Why does this happen? It's not always out of malice. Psychologists call this emotional simplification. As people age, especially younger adults, they tend to narrow their social energy. They get busy, overwhelmed, stressed, and without realizing it, they start categorizing their relationships. Unfortunately, older adults often get mentally placed in the check-in category rather than the connect with one, and this happens even with family. You may be sitting in a room where your children or grandchildren are chatting away, and not once do they look over and say, "What do you think, Grandma?" Or, "What would you do, Grandpa?" Let's take Linda, age 83. Her grandson used to call her every weekend. They'd talk for half an hour about school, friends, his job. Now she says he texts once a month. "Hope you're well, love you." Sweet words, but no conversation. No listening. This is how emotional distance forms, not with harsh silence, but with shrinking words. And for you, it might feel like you're becoming invisible, even though you're right there in plain sight. Sign number 2. Fewer invitations to family. Events or social gatherings. The second sign is subtle at first. Maybe you notice you weren't invited to that birthday dinner. Maybe you hear about a family barbecue after it happened. And when you ask, they say things like, "Oh, we didn't think you'd want to come," or "We figured it might be too much for you." At first, you give them the benefit of the doubt, but over time, the pattern becomes clear. You're being excluded. And here's the thing, it rarely comes from a place of cruelty. Most of the time, it's packaged in concern. "We didn't want to tire you out. It's a long drive. You probably wouldn't like the noise." But what they're really doing is deciding for you. And that's the danger. There's a term for this: assumed limitation. It's when people begin to assume you can't or wouldn't want to, without ever asking. They start to erase your presence from plans, not because they want to hurt you, but because they think they're being helpful. Let me share the story of Gerald, 86. Every year, his son would take him to the big family reunion. Gerald looked forward to it all year, laughing with cousins, meeting new babies, watching the next generation grow up. But last year, no one mentioned the reunion. He only found out about it when he saw photos on Facebook. When he asked why he wasn't told, his son said, "Dad, we just thought the travel would be too much for you this year." No invitation, no chance to say yes or no. Can you imagine how that feels? You go from being included to being notified, and then, eventually, not even that. The real damage here isn't just missing a party or a meal, it's feeling like your presence no longer matters, that you're not essential to the group anymore, that life is going on, and you're on the sidelines. But here's what I want you, my unstoppable seniors, to remember. You have the right to be part of the story, of the pictures, of the traditions, and you have every right to say yes or no on your own terms. If this resonates with you so far, drop a comment below with the number 1 so I know you're here and feeling seen. And if you're finding value in this message, consider subscribing to Wellness for Modern Seniors, where your voice, your experience, and your presence matter every single day. Now take a breath, and when you're ready. Sign number 3, people stop. Asking for your opinion or advice. Once upon a time, you were the first person they called when something big happened, whether it was a job offer, a relationship problem, or a parenting question. You were the rock, the wise voice, the sounding board. But now, you find out decisions after they're already made. They tell you what they did, not what they're thinking about doing. You may even hear phrases like, "We didn't want to bother you. It all happened so fast. We figured you wouldn't really know about this kind of stuff." And that hits deep, because being asked for advice isn't just about offering answers. It's about being trusted, being needed, being respected. It means someone believes your life experience still matters, that your mind is still sharp, that your voice is still worth hearing. But as people start to view you through the lens of age, that perception shifts. Society, and sometimes even family, begins to associate old age with being out of touch. They assume your advice will be outdated or irrelevant. And that assumption, it couldn't be more wrong. Let's talk about May, 84. Her granddaughter used to call her constantly about boys' jobs, life plans. Now May says she learns about those major changes through social media. "I didn't want to stress you out," her granddaughter says kindly. But May isn't stressed. She's heartbroken, because when someone stops seeking your input, it's not just a quiet. It's a silence with weight, a silence that says, "We no longer see you as a guide, just a listener." But here's the truth, my modern and unstoppable seniors. Your wisdom didn't fade. If anything, it's deepened. You've lived through wars, social change, family upheaval, love and loss. You've seen the cycles of life play out over decades. You see beyond trends. You know what lasts and what doesn't. If they can't see that, it says more about them than it does about you. Sign number 4, you're the last to know or not told at all about family news. Another painful shift happens when you start finding out important things after the fact. A wedding engagement, a new job, a big move, even a family illness or crisis. Suddenly you're hearing about it not from your kids or grandkids, but from someone else. Or worse, not at all. Why does this happen? Often it's framed as protection. They'll say, "We didn't want to upset you. There was so much going on. We were going to tell you later." But the effect is the same. You feel cut off, disconnected, excluded. There's a deep human need to feel in the loop, not just to satisfy curiosity, but because information equals inclusion. It means you matter enough to be kept close. Take Armand, 89. He found out his niece had passed away 2 weeks after the funeral. "I didn't want you traveling," his sister said, but what Armand wanted was to be there, to grieve, to remember, to show up. That's what families do, or should. But when you're the last to know or not told at all, it creates emotional distance that's hard to ignore. You start to wonder, what else don't I know? What other moments are they having without me? And worse, do they think I wouldn't understand? To be informed is to be valued. To be included is to be loved with respect. So when that flow of communication dries up, it's not just about missed information. It's about a fracture in the emotional bond. And it can make you feel like you're not just aging, you're vanishing from their daily reality. But let me remind you, my modern and unstoppable seniors, you still have every right to be informed, to be part of the family's flow, to know what's happening, good or bad. You're still a vital piece of the story. If someone thinks you're too old to handle it, that's their fear, not your limitation. If something in this message speaks to your heart, go ahead and tap that like button. It blesses your journey and helps bring this message to other modern and unstoppable seniors who need it too. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Here at Wellness for Modern Seniors, we create content that brings You truth, validation, and practical tools to thrive in this season of life, because you're not invisible. You are essential. Sign number 5. Visits become routine, not relational. There was a time when a visit meant something. It wasn't just about showing up. It was about being together, sharing stories, drinking tea, laughing over old memories. Maybe even crying a little when life got hard. But now those visits, if they happen, feel different, more like an obligation than a connection. You notice they come at the same time, stay for just long enough, and leave right when it feels like you're about to really talk. They might glance at their watch or their phone. You see the polite smile, but not the spark, not the curiosity. Instead of asking, "How are you really doing?" they ask, "Do you need anything from the store?" Of course they still love you, but something's changed. You've become a task, not a person, a responsibility, not a relationship. Let me tell you about Henry, age 88. His daughter stops by every Sunday without fail, but each visit is exactly 30 minutes. She brings groceries, checks the fridge, asks if he's taken his meds, and then says, "Okay, Dad, see you next week." No real conversation, no shared laughter, no warmth. Henry once said, "She's here, but I miss her anyway." My modern and unstoppable seniors, that kind of loneliness is real. And it happens even when you're not alone in the room. When presence is there, but connection isn't. So how do you recognize this sign early? Pay attention to how people show up, not just if they do. Are they engaging with you as a whole person or simply managing your needs? And if you feel the spark has gone dim, don't be afraid to speak up. Ask for real conversation, share a memory, tell a joke. Pull them back in, because you are not just a pit stop on their to-do list. Sign number 6. People stop asking about your passions, hobbies, or daily life. Let me ask you something. When was the last time someone asked what you've been up to lately? Not your health, not your meds, not your doctor's appointments, but you, your joys, your routines, your interests. If it's been a while, you're not alone. One of the clearest signs that people are pulling away emotionally is when they stop being curious about your inner world. You might still be reading books, painting, gardening, watching the birds, or even learning new skills, but nobody asks about it. They assume that your world is small now, that you don't do much anymore, that your days are just filled with rest and routine. But let me tell you, that assumption is false and dangerous. It erases the fullness of your life, your joy, your creativity, your purpose. Take Rosa, 87. She's been writing poetry for years. She fills notebooks with verse, capturing the changing seasons, the memories of her youth, the ache of love and the beauty of quiet mornings. But when her grandson visits, all he asks is, "You sleeping okay, Grandma?" He has no idea about the masterpieces sitting on her nightstand. That's what happens when people stop seeing you as a vibrant soul. When they stop asking, "What makes you happy? What are you working on these days?" Or even, "What's something interesting you noticed this week?" You deserve to be seen, not just for your needs, but for your passions. So how do you bring that part of yourself forward? Don't wait for someone to ask. Offer it. Share what you've created. Talk about the project you're working on. Mention the book you're reading or the bird you saw outside your window this morning. You are not a background character in someone else's life. You are the lead in your own. And to anyone who's forgotten that, remind them. If you've ever felt like your visits have become hollow or your passions invisible, make sure to subscribe and tap the bell. Let's speak this truth out loud. We are still here, still curious, still alive. And if you're getting something valuable from this video, don't forget to subscribe to Wellness for Modern Seniors. This is your space, where we talk honestly about what aging really feels like and how to claim your voice in every chapter of life. Sign number 7. You're talked about more than talked to. One of the most painful, yet sneaky signs that people are pulling away is when you start hearing things about you through the grapevine, secondhand stories, or in conversations you aren't part of. Maybe family members discuss your health or habits as if you're not there. Maybe friends talk behind your back about how things have changed or what you can't do anymore. This isn't always meant to be hurtful. Sometimes it's out of concern, sometimes just ignorance. But what it really does is put you outside the circle. You're no longer a participant in your own story. They're narrating it without you. Eleanor, 90, shared how she found out her family was talking about moving her to a care home before they asked her how she felt. She wasn't angry. She was crushed because she had been left out of a decision that affected her life deeply. This kind of exclusion chips away at your dignity. It sends the silent message. You're less capable, less involved, less important. But here's the truth, my modern and unstoppable seniors. You deserve to be in the room when decisions about you are made. You deserve to have your voice heard, loud and clear. You deserve respect, not just pity or protection in your. Later, people assume you're done or settled and stop dreaming with you finally. The most heartbreaking sign of all is when people stop seeing you as someone with a future. They act like your story is finished. Your dreams should be shelved, your goals already reached or irrelevant. You hear things like, "You've done enough. It's time to take it easy now. What else do you need to prove?" But, my modern and unstoppable seniors, life doesn't stop at 80. Your dreams, your passions, your ambitions, they are still alive and they still matter. I know this because I've heard from so many of you who started new hobbies, traveled, learned technology, rekindled relationships, or even launched new businesses well past 80. You are vibrant, dynamic, and full of life. And anyone who assumes otherwise is simply missing out on knowing the real you. So if you're feeling invisible, or like people are quietly stepping back, remember, you hold the power to step forward, to be seen, to be heard, to keep dreaming. Recognizing. These signs isn't about feeling defeated. It's about reclaiming your space in the world. When you see the patterns, you can begin to change the story. Speak up when visits feel hollow. Share your passions even if no one asks. Remind your family that you want to be included in decisions. And never let anyone convince you your future is behind you. Here at Wellness for Modern Seniors, we celebrate your journey, the wisdom, strength, and unstoppable spirit you bring. You are far from fading. You are glowing. You are vital. And the world still needs your light. If this message resonated with you, drop a comment below with the number 8 to let me know. Share your story or simply say, "I'm still here." Don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell for more empowering content designed just for you, because at Wellness for Modern Seniors, we rise together. Thank you for being part of this community, my modern and unstoppable seniors. Until next time, keep shining bright.